Hello, and welcome to this new episode of Daughters of Narcissistic Mothers podcast. And thank you for listening, for being here, sharing this time with me, and also for all your beautiful comments, your reviews. They're so appreciated, and the sharing of this podcast with other women in your life. That's so wonderful. I'm blown away by how much that's happening. I'm seeing the numbers, I'm seeing the results of that, and yeah, that really warms my heart, and I sincerely want to thank you for that, because that is what makes this not just a podcast but a movement and a community. And that is, yeah, that's my dream. That's what I envisioned when I started this. So yeah, thank you very much for that. And I I just wanted to say that. I wanted to start with that because today, the topic of today is loneliness, and being here with you already, like being here in this episode. And I know you're listening to this, and I know I'm not recording this live, but time doesn't matter that much. It's like I am there live with you already right now, and it's like you're listening to this episode already, so we're in this together. um that's like a big help and a big support already. So today I want to speak to two very important things that are available and that you can access, so that you can be supported when you feel lonely. And not just any loneliness, but that crushing loneliness that comes, well, that is there all the time, really. And we're gonna look into that, how having had a narcissistic mother can have brought that up for you, can that loneliness can be a result of that. And it's like that kind of loneliness that it's always there in the background. Like even when you are among a lot of people, even when you're very, very, very busy, it's still there. It's like something that is dragging you down all the time. So yeah, we're gonna explore that today. And before we go into that, I want to share a little bit about my own story and how the loneliness that I have felt inside of me for the best part of my life. I still do. It's still there. Um, yeah, where that comes from, how that, like, where are the memories in my own life that brought that up. And as always, when I share about this, it's not, um, it's not to make it that that's what, even if what in your life, what happened in your life, in your childhood, in your experience of growing up was completely different, that doesn't mean that feeling can't be there. It's my sharing is just, it's just for you to open up to your own experience and inspire that, and see and look into that, because sometimes looking into the past, looking into what has happened you when you were a child, can be quite a painful process. It's not an easy process. And so being here sharing from the heart with you, my intention is to support you. You're not alone in looking into that, into exploring those aspects, even if it's painful. It's like we're in circle together, and we're all sharing vulnerably. So let's get into that. So When I was a child, my mother was very absent throughout my entire childhood. She was always away. Um, Work was her main excuse. Although, like, I know now from my own experience now that she could have been there a lot more. Um, but still, that was what she used to tell me. And then when I was 12, after her second divorce, she left the country altogether. So she just was gone. And that happened quite quickly. And some of you might think it's like, I mean, she was such a narcissistic mother. Isn't that a good thing that she left, like gave you space? And that's true in a way, in hindsight. But as a child, despite all her constant put downs and emotional violence, both when we lived in the same house actually, and those continued even after she left, I still craved her presence. I was desperate to have my mother with me, and I was desperate to find connection with her. It didn't matter what she threw at me, connection with her was the one thing. Like, I cried my eyes out every day. I spent hours writing on a piece of paper the word mom in Italian. I thought that was like the most beautiful word in the world, and I couldn't use it because my mother wasn't around. Um, and despite all her letters saying that she was sacrificing for the good of myself and my sister, I still couldn't get why she would live like that. There must have been something wrong with me, clearly, to create that. I mean, like, it's kids, children put that on themselves. We just justify every action that we don't understand from our parents and take the responsibility for it. So at the time, I was living with my grandmother and my little sister. My father had been a once a week dad since I was 1 year old. Kept with the same routine. So even though my mother left, he still was a once a week dad, which was crucial in so many ways, but not remotely enough. But my mother wasn't done yet. So at this point, what she did, she pushed and pushed and pushed, so that my sister, which I never say that she's my stepsister because she's my sister in every way, we were very close, but she was moved out of the house, and because our mother thought it would be best for her to live with her dad, but her dad lived an hour away, so that was devastating for me, to be separated like that, and I was alone. All of a sudden, my entire world was shattered. Like, one person lived in a different country. My mother, like my sister, lived away in a way that I could not go see her. I saw her very rarely. And I know that that's not when it all started. There's been a lot of events preceding all of this mess in my early childhood, some of which I still remember quite well, that set the basis for that constant feeling of loneliness. But the experiences at this point, the ones that I just recounted, reinforced it all. And after that, I think is after this that I've become aware of that feeling of loneliness. It's been with me all my life. And I've always been desperately trying to fill the void I felt, to fill it up, to put something there, because it's like painful. And I lived with this belief that no matter how difficult my life gets, there is no one there for me, ever. It didn't matter how desperate I felt. It didn't matter how much I cried. It didn't matter how much I asked. My mom wouldn't come back. So I had no one to talk to. and no one that could truly understand. And I brought that belief with me. No one can understand me. I can't really open up to anyone. No one really cares. The ones that are pretending to listen, or they're pretending to care, but there's no one that really, really cares. And the result of that was that I learned to do it all by myself, having my own battles internally and silently, and also being super fast and effective on the outside. So like I've always been told I was the strong one, like just because I could put it all in and work and function on the outside. But as I was doing that, at the same time, I was getting caught in a codependent relationship after the other. I started at age 15 with that. And yet, the loneliness never went. And again, I'm sharing this with you because I don't know your story. I don't know what exactly went down with your mother when you were little, or what is going on now in your relationship with her. What I know is that when your mother is a narcissist, you grow up feeling alone and undeserving of the most fundamental nourishment for your soul, which is love. I remember being in real need at times, real need, like situations that were very difficult for me. And and my mother wasn't there. She would plainly refuse to support. It was not her problem. It was my shortcomings that had created the problem, and it was my responsibility to sort the problem. And she just was not there. Maternal narcissism and the abuse that goes with it, in all the different forms it can take, can leave a gaping hole inside of you. And it's a hole that can swallow you entirely if you let yourself linger on it. Have you ever felt that way? Like, if I open up to this pain, there's no coming back from this. It's too much. I certainly have. And that's why I became fast, effective, and apparently strong. So I could keep a wall between myself and that hole of loneliness, sadness, and I wouldn't be crushed. So how do we deal with it? Oh, well, as we said, one way is we get busy. We get busy but doing what? That's actually irrelevant. It can be messy relationships. It can be doing up your house. It can be watching Netflix. It can be struggling from one problem to another. It could even be, irony of all ironies, being busy minding your mother. Whatever works, as long as it keeps us out of that gaping hole inside our chest, that chronic lack of love, and the feeling of loneliness that comes with it. Are you getting that? We just do, or we find ways to keep the mind busy on stories that the vast majority of the times, if not always, are not actually supporting us or helpful at all, but they keep us away from feeling that pain. And this is a very valid strategy. When the alternative is total misery, you might as well just, find strategies that keep you going. I've done that so much. And it's important. Again, you've heard me saying this before, and I'm going to keep on saying it. Don't judge yourself for any of that. Because it is a valid strategy and it makes sense. It makes sense that without any other tool, without the belief that you can get any support, without the belief that you're worth anything, that you deserve any love, that you find strategies to survive. That's actually a really wise system that does that. It has kept you going up until now. But it ultimately doesn't work because, and and that has been my experience, and I know it is the experience of many women out there, because in my work, talking and sharing and receiving feedback and talking to women some more, that just comes up all the time. All the time. It doesn't matter how busy you get, the feeling of loneliness is still there. It's still there. That we're wired to seek connection and to feel loved. And when that doesn't, we don't feel that that's our experience, we feel lonely. And it's really, really painful. Do you ever feel super lonely even when you're surrounded by people? Or maybe it hits you all at once the moment things get quiet around you? Or maybe you are the one who says out loud how much you love being alone, while everything else in your behavior is shouting the opposite. That happens too. I personally have felt so lonely in the middle of people, like I was an island and no one could get me ever. I felt like I didn't deserve anything positive, and that any good that came my way, in my direction, was either a lie or it was going to be taken away from me soon anyways. I used to tell myself that I was indeed alone in this world, like, and how I believed that. I mean, how much I believed that. My being lived it fully and with such remarkable commitment. So committed to this belief of being undeserving and being alone. When I became aware of how toxic my mother was, I started a journey through a very intense inner work, one that is not over. I don't think it will ever be over, because we are ever expanding, and so we're just always seeking more in a good way. And so here is what I learned so far. I'm not alone. It sounds really ridiculously simple, but I'm not alone, and you are not alone. Even when you're physically on your own, you're not alone. And not in the creepy way, of course. But because we're gonna go into that. Like, let's leave it at that for now. The connection, it's there. We just have to find pathways and ways to feel that connection with ourselves first and foremost, and then all that is around, and then all the other people as well that are in our life. But it's a process, and we're gonna get to it. So we can try super hard to feel the whole with things, with people, with busyness. It won't go away. Okay, it's not something that you can physically feel with stuff. I actually, the more you try to feel it with stuff, the more the hole feels bigger. Because despite all that you're sticking into it, like, the people that you're superficially surrounding yourself with, the things that you're maybe buying or doing, and the business, the hole is still there. So it's like, it feels huge. It's only when you turn towards it, when you turn towards that sadness, that loneliness, and you face it, that you can discover what's beyond it. And what did I find? When I looked into it, I found so much grief. So much grief. I filled buckets with tears. And also anger. A lot of it. Waves of both. Sometimes the anger comes before the grief can be unlocked, but it's not a linear process. So I can't tell you one comes first and then the other. Although it is layered, there's different layers of it, and it goes deeper and deeper. So you might be asking at this point, why would I be doing that? I mean, why would I work so hard to replace loneliness with grief and anger, of all things? Good point. A very good point. Because grief and anger are extremely uncomfortable. And I can't say that they're any less uncomfortable than feeling lonely. Yet those waves are essential to get to the sweetest juice and simply can't be skipped. And and when you unlock grief and when you unlock anger in your system, it actually feels good. There's like loneliness has hopelessness that goes with it. That belief that has you feeling that chronic, constant, crushing loneliness is really together with hopelessness. Like there's no way out of this. Soldiering on maybe for some of us works somehow superficially, but ultimately there's no way out of this. No matter where I'm turning, no matter what I'm doing, I'm still feeling like crap. Do you ever get that? That's been like with me for so long, and I still get waves of that. Still, as I said, it's layered, it's not linear. Even after having done a lot of work and been through anger and grief several times, I still get that. I have learned not to believe it as much, not to be as committed as I used to be to that belief that I am actually alone. But I do still get waves of that. The deeper you go in those layers, the more you start accessing something new. And that is love. And I know it sounds cheesy, and I don't know, but that is it. That is what you get. After waves of anger and grief, there's love. It's there under those layers. The love that you thought was not there for you ever. The love that you thought you were too faulty to ever receive. Because if your own mother didn't manage to love you, who else would? I mean, maternal love, that's like the most potent love. That's the one that it's there for us. It should be there for us, yeah? And when it isn't there, then who else in the world is going to love us? I mean, if I wasn't enough to keep my mother in the same house or to keep my mother in the same country as I was living, who else is going to want to stick around me? Makes sense, doesn't it? But when you go through all those layers, bit by bit, you find the love that nourishes your heart and soul. And you find out that that love is actually there for you. It is mother love. It is a mother energy that is inside of you. And it is the most profound nourishment for the soul. And you can tell me at this point that there's no mother energy in you. I mean, when they were giving mother energy out, you weren't there, you missed that shot, and you don't have any. It's there. I can tell you for a fact it's there. And having mother energy inside of you does not mean that you need to be a mother, that you need to have children. Has nothing to do with that. It's an energy. It's a part of you. It is there. It's only been suppressed. It's only been buried under layers and layers and layers, but it is there. And the process to uncover it, it's messy, and it might be long, and it might be very uncomfortable too at times. And I'm not going to lie to you about it, because there's no point. It's like the dentist telling you, oh, this is not gonna be painful. And then you're like, But this is really painful. Why are you telling me it's not going to be painful? You knew it was going to be painful. You lied to me. I don't know if you've ever been in that situation with your dentist. I have. Um, so there's no point in lying to you. It is uncomfortable. Like, blah, it is really uncomfortable, and it does look messy. But when you feel you're done it, oh, actually, yeah, and it's uncomfortable, and when you feel that you're done and through with it, more waves come in, because it's not just one. You don't just do one anger release, or one moment of tearing up in grief, and then that's it, all done, and we're on the other side, a little bit of journaling, and like all clean and tidy, and we're done. It doesn't work like that. It comes in waves, and the deep wounds, mother wounds, the what maternal narcissism does, they're deep wounds that go in deep into our tissues. They go in deep to our essence, into and they affect so much in our lives. Uh, it's like the roots of a weed, and that they're going in and in and in, and you don't realize. You see like this little plant at the top, like this little weed, and you think it's gonna be really easy, like you're just gonna take it and pull it and it's all gonna come up. But no, you then realize that those roots are just going in really deep and everywhere, and they're going through some stones too. And it's like, I don't know if you're into gardening at all, but maybe if you are, you've experienced that. When you go pulling, you find out that you actually pulling is not enough. You gotta go dig. You gotta go dig deep and wide to find all the little bits of roots. So yeah, that is the process. And I'm not saying this because I want to scare you away from it. Far from it, actually. It's because it's important to know that when you find it difficult, it's not because you're broken and faulty and you're doing it wrong. It's because it is. But there are rewards on the other side, and you are strong enough to make it to the other side because you have been strong enough to get to here. You've been through so much already. Actually, what you've been through is way harder than this process is. Way harder. So how do we do this? What are these two things that are necessary to make it? And I'm gonna tell you like a little thing that I didn't say at the beginning. It's actually, there's three things, but one of these requires an episode of its own. So I think I'm just gonna stick with two today, and then I'm gonna give you the third one in another episode. Bit of suspense. So let's stick with these two for today. The how you're gonna do this, the how you're gonna go on this journey, is very personal to you. So for today, I'm going to go through what is needed for you to go through this journey. Okay? And the first thing is commitment. You need to be committed and disciplined. And the commitment is to yourself, first and foremost, to the love for yourself. That an unshakable commitment to life and to yourself, and to that inner knowing that I know is in there. I know is in there because you're here, you're listening to this. So it is there, that inner knowing that you deserve love. Like, you are so deserving of love, of a life that is happy and fulfilling. And the hell with everyone that says otherwise. You deserve it, and you have that inner knowing. So, like, can you feel it right now? That spark. in your belly, like that fire in your belly. It doesn't matter if it feels like just a little ember right now. That full commitment, you need to be fully committed to that ember to become wildfire. Like there's no other mission in your life. That's the one thing you're going to achieve. And I know that commitment you already have in buckets. And why do I know that? Because we said that before. You have been so committed to believing how alone and undeserving of love you are. So now what you need to do is just redirect that commitment to believing quite the opposite. That, as we said, that you are lovable and deserving of love. And that's there. Okay? We're not starting from scratch with that. That spark is there. And I know it's easier said than done. Especially because we don't want this to be forced. Okay, there's a lot of ways, there's a lot of teachings out there, and approaches that are, they're forcing you to change your beliefs and to do it abruptly in a way that is very unnatural, and it is not really helpful, I find, and it's quite head-led, and we don't want that. So this is a gentle process. It's not something that you do from the morning to the evening. It's not about self-convincing with a heap of positive affirmation and blah blah blah. That's not what we're talking about. It's a way deeper process that goes deep into your tissues. That goes like it becomes an inside-out process. But at the same time, there are things that you can already start doing. So when you are caught in believing you are undeserving of love, there's a part of you, okay, that has this job description. And the job is to be always collecting the evidence of what you believe. Okay? So if you believe you're undeserving of love, this part collects all the evidence of the fact that you're undeserving of love. And it's when you slow down and observe it at work, some of the evidence it's really not that accurate either, it's far out. But nonetheless, we that part takes all that it believes it could be evidence, and it just keeps showing it to you like with a magnifying glass, so that belief gets reinforced. So what you need to do is get that observant part of you and give her another job. Give her the job where she has to collect the evidence of the opposite. So, meaning of the love that is there available for you. And I know that you can go, but there's no evidence of that. I want to challenge that. And it's really important to start by being very general. Okay? It's not helpful to get trying to hunt for evidence of love from your mother, for example. I mean, there's too much history and triggers there. Don't go there. That's not a good place to start. Make that part of you take notice, maybe of, I don't know, a random smile that comes your way, little things that happen in your day that show you that love is out there. And it's there also for you. It could be simple little things. All the way to be so general, because you can go, but there's none of that. Like it could be your cat coming saying hello to you. Rather than going, oh, she's only doing it because she's hungry. It's love coming your way. Take that filter out and start collecting the evidence. The way your dog is looking at you, the way your child brings you a gift. Sometimes they do that. They bring you a drawing that they want to show you, or it can be so many little things. It can be as general as the earth, feeling the earth that is always holding you. It's always under your feet. And that's something you can feel all the time. because the earth is always there under your feet. So you could go take your shoes off and then feel it even more. Make that an even stronger experience. Or you could take evidence of how lovingly your breath is coming in and nourishing you. So you can go as general as that. And general is not less potent. It's not just to make it ridiculous, but it's sometimes the system finds it easier to believe when we take a step back and go very general with it. But ultimately, so finding all the evidence that it's happening in your day that shows you that you're lovable. And then maybe you can journal about it. If that's something you do, if that's something that feels good by you, why not? Just in the evening, just journal about the things that you notice in the day that were clear signs of love coming your way. And you don't need to write a list like of 20, 25 things. Just write 3 things. 3 is enough. If more comes, that's good. But it's like sometimes you're trying to push it and then there's disappointment and it's not helpful again. So 3 things is enough. And then maybe in the morning you could, if you are journaling in the morning, or if you have some kind of practice that you do in the morning, you could set the intention of looking up, reminding your system, reminding that part that has that job of collecting evidence that there is an intention. You're setting an intention to look for things, to notice, to take notice of the evidence that is out there, that there is love available for you. At this point you might say, but that feels like fooling myself. Well, that's one way to look at it. I don't believe that that's the way it is. I believe in what's helpful and what's not. And noticing a heap of stuff that is evidence of how lonely I was not helpful for me. Beginning to notice the amount of love that was coming my way really supported me. So there's that. And also one thing I have observed is that reality is not very objective at all. We perceive everything through the lenses of our own interpretation, based on our past experiences. There are actually studies on this that I won't go into right now. So that kind of guides it for me. I'm sure you've experienced being with someone and witnessing something together and then realize the person with you has seen it all different. So there you go, like reality is not objective. So like why not just collecting evidence of feeling loved? I mean, rather than collecting evidence of feeling miserable. Like, it's a choice. I know what has helped me. Bottom line is that the more evidence you can collect, the signs of love coming your way, no matter how general you are going to go with this, it will have an effect on your system, supporting you feeling better and better from the inside out. Now, this is only a small part of the commitment you need on this journey, but it's already very powerful. This is something you can start implementing straight away. You can start straight away, like this moment. Once, like even while you're listening to this podcast, maybe you're listening as you're going for a walk, or so you could already just feel and look and begin to receive that evidence. Actually, even listening to this podcast is a sign you're lovable. That's a sign of love coming your way. I'm sitting here recording this episode with nothing but love for you, because I do know it's unshakable belief inside of me that you deserve so much love and you are so lovable. So here you go. That's your first sign of the day. I'm here speaking to you, and I do love you. I have nothing but love for you. Um, okay, so with that, let's see what's the second thing that you need for this journey. So it's the commitment as a base layer, and then the next thing is community. Community. And not just any community, but the right community for you. And how do we know if it's the right community? Has to be, and there's no messing around with this. It has to be a space where you can feel seen, held, loved, witnessed, safe, and also challenged. And that's the support. That's the support. And you do need that support. To go on this journey, as we said, is messy, is uncomfortable. Why the hell would you do something messy and uncomfortable not to feel alone and do it on your own? It makes no sense. Could you do this on your own? I'm never going to tell you that you can't, because that's actually just really not how I operate. I'm not telling you that you can't. If you feel you can do something, go for it. But what I'm going to say is that going at it alone is a lot harder and it's unnecessary. And I also can tell you this because I have done a lot of it on my own. And it was a lot harder. And lately I discovered also unnecessary. And another aspect of it is that the wounds that come from maternal narcissism are relational wounds. And therefore, the most potent healing is within relating with other women. And yeah, a safe space with a bunch of women that can hold you, witness you, and share their similar experience with you, like I've done at the beginning of this podcast, sharing with you what my experience was. That's vulnerable. And it's super potent medicine for your heart and for your soul. And I really do get how for some of you listening to this, there's nothing you hate the most. And let's be honest, okay? Like, there's no point in pretending otherwise. There's nothing you hate the most than going deep and vulnerable with other women. I really get it. For me, I hated it. Oh my God, like repulsed by it. It was the most frightening thing in the world, although I would never admit that. I would make plenty of excuses. And then bottom line say that I much preferred the company of men to the company of women. I get on with men so much better. That this was like a broken record with me, like always saying that every time someone would tell me, oh, but there's like this women's circle and there's this meetup with women and I'm like, ugh, I'm allergic to that. I don't want to go into that. And there's a reason for that I became aware later on. Then being brought up by a narcissistic mother can lead you to believe that all women are untrustworthy, that they're out to get you, that they would judge you and bitch about you and compete with you. I was very convinced of that. I used to go around saying that women are bitches inside. There's nothing you can do about it. And that they're always going to hurt you in some way or another. And if they're not hurting you, well, they're being false to your face. They're hurting you behind your back. That was like such a belief within me. Because I projected what my mother was with me onto every other woman I met. She is the example. Your mother is the example of woman. And it's very easy to fall into the trap of believing that. And sometimes you don't believe that, as in you're not even aware that you believe that. For a time in my life I wasn't. But the behavior would still be the same. I'd be seeking out guys and be in the company of men. And I would avoid being in the company of women. And because I was so convinced of all of that, again, that part of me that has the job of collecting evidence was collecting all the evidence of that. And so reality was confirming my belief. So how I got into my first women's circle with that as a belief is an interesting story, one for another time. To say that I was reluctant is an understatement. I had to face my demons and fear and dive in. My reason to go into the circle was bigger than the fear that I had of it. I really wanted to do it. And the support I received was amazing. Amazing. It was the biggest surprise of my life. I made friendships and created connections that are still strong many years later. I am so grateful to this day for all the love and support I've received and how healing it has been to witness other women sharing vulnerably something that I have never seen my mother do. She has no idea how to be vulnerable. To this day, she still has no idea. And so she has never modeled that for me. I mean, narcissistic mothers can't be vulnerable. That's the thing. That's why they're doing what they're doing, to protect themselves to crazy degrees and never be vulnerable, never show weakness. That would make them non-narcissistic. That would be a healing point. If your mother actually was vulnerable, well, you would know, okay, there's a step. Something is happening. Whatever it is, it's good. And just to specify, being a martyr and self-sacrificing victim, it doesn't count as vulnerable. Just so we're clear. So here we are. At the end of an episode that felt vulnerable and potent for me. I don't know, have you felt that? So what you need to go on this journey when you're feeling lonely all the time, and undeserving of love, is commitment to yourself and to that spark inside of you, and community. A community that gets you in every way, without judgment. A community of women. Because we are all in this together. You are not alone. I am not alone. And I know it sounds cheesy, but we're all sisters in this. Because we have all been through some serious amount of crap in our life. And we are all deciding that's enough. And so together, step by step, we're reclaiming the fullness of who we are, individually and collectively. And with this, I want to invite you to engage even deeper, to take the next step. So access support. Access the support. You know that here, I offer Reclaim Your Fullness Women's Circles. As I said in the previous episodes, they're starting again in September, brand new, and there's the waiting lists are open, so you can check the link in the description on how to apply and be on the waiting list. And it's potent work. It's potent work, and it's the best thing you can do for yourself. Not just any women's circle, but a women's circle that is tailored for your needs, that is there to offer you all the evidence, or a big portion of the evidence of how lovable you are, while at the same time supporting you through the challenging times, and offer you some degree of challenge too, because I have been challenged. I remember sometimes being asked to do things that I was like my first time doing an anger release, you know, was like the hardest thing I've ever done. And if I didn't have the support I had, and if I didn't feel loved and held by like I did, I would not have, it would have been too scary to try and do that by myself. So yeah, it's important work. It's important work, and I I love offering that because I've received that so powerfully that I know how much it works. I don't actually advise anything that I have not experienced because they're empty words. Um, I don't resonate with people out there that I meet that advise stuff just because they've read it in a book and they've never tried it. I've learned a different way, and experience is essential. So if I advise it in here, if I speak to it in here, it's because I've experienced it to some degree at the very least. And so I can say, yeah, that that worked for me. Can't guarantee it's gonna work for you because we're all different, but I can at least say it has worked for me, so I have a precedent on this. So with that, I'm going to send you so much love, and again, start from now collecting the evidence of how loved you are, of the love coming your way. And yeah, have a beautiful week. Bye for now.